if you ask me what is the single most important trait qualitative researcher should have, that is the art of interviewing. So if you have, and that's an art, that's why we don't call it as a science. So yes, it is a science also, because there are some steps, and by repeated practice you can learn it. But interviewing is an art also, and but you can learn this. So it's both an art and a science, and we'll discuss how to develop an interview guide, and which is semi structured, and how to take the interview, because a good qualitative data should have less of interviewer and more of interviewee verbatim. So with this, so let's understand the uh, need of an open-ended question. Okay, so all of you know theoretically what is an open-ended question and what is a closed-ended question. But in spite of knowing, we tend to ask questions because in medical science, we have been in habit of asking a close-ended question for so long. So still we are in a habit of asking close-ended question. So now what will happen in the close-ended question? So now just see this example. You ask this question to a patient who is taking treatment from AIIMS Delhi for any disease X. Okay. So like you ask this question, and we many times we ask this question, that rate your level of satisfaction uh, of this hospital after we are performing an exit interview once the patient has uh, completed his treatment, his or her treatment, and then we ask the patient how his level of satisfaction on a rating scale of 1 to 10. And we ask many such questions like Kurt scale questions, ranging from high disagreement to agreement, and there are various degrees of those. So here means this 1 means the very bad or the worst, and 10 means the excellent. Okay, so yes, definitely it is a closed question. Shweta is right. And from a qualitative research perspective, what is the problem in this question? So yes, it is close-ended. All of you, please write your response. From a qualitative research perspective, what is the problem with this question? It's limit their reply. Yes. Madhav is writing no specific, vague. They will not get detailed answers. Subjective feeling. We do not know the reason for the low or high score. Yes. Saraswati is writing no further information. Ashwathi is writing we cannot understand the reason behind each response. Okay, so yes, this was the most, I mean, all of you are correctly expressed your views. And this is the reason that just imagine that the patient, if this question is asked from you, you will have this dilemma that because you have gone to multiple places, you have gone to doctor side, you were standing in the queue, there was a person security guard, then you went to the maybe the billing counter, the billing counter person was not behaving properly, then you went for investigations, taking sample, the giving your sample or collecting your result, then you went to pharmacy. So such things where you have got multiple visits and you are meeting multiple people, so then you are very much confused that what like behavior of at one place, or at one place it was very good, maybe the billing people, I got my work done very easily, but in the investigations where I have gone to collect the investigations, it was very delayed and the person was very badly behaving with me. Or the doctor was good, but he was not communicating with me properly. So there are many things, so he will give an overall, and he's also perplexed what to answer if you ask from 0 to 10, because you have also filled this questionnaire, highly disagree or agree, or a 0 to 10 scale of pain, how do you feel your pain. But I mean, what is your perception around when you answer such questions? Yes, can anyone unmute yourself and convey, because this cannot be conveyed until you speak. Typing will not give that nuance or that gesture which I want to have from you people. Any one of you?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, in close-ended, we are not getting so much of answers what we want or we want to know. But when we do qualitative, we get lots of answer, lots of their feelings come out of their mind and their heart, means unhidden feelings gets out of their mouth. But in
Yes.
close-ended, we are giving them option. So we are not going to get much about in deeper way.
Okay. Yes.
But
Thank you.
uh,
Anyone else would like to add to this? Yes, she rightly stated her feeling. And have you ever answered such type of questions? Whenever we go to any shopping, this thing, you go to any mall, you also been asked to rate something, or that person has come to you, you also been asked to rate something. So what is your, while you are doing that rating, what is going in your mind? Have you ever done rating? I think I'm sure all of you must have done it. Please unmute yourself and answer, because then this chat box will not be helpful in this question. What is going in your mind while you are giving that rating?
Ma'am, we may not, as like time will be limited, we may not pay attention, and like whatever the researcher wants from us, we may not be doing it rightly.
Yes. Yes, because many a time we are in hurry and we just want to be in the middle. If you analyze all those Likert scale questions, you will see the people tend to be in the middle. They will not go into the extreme, very bad or very good, unless and until something so good or so bad happens. So most of us like tend to rate in between. Maybe if 5 is very good, we'll tend to give some 3 or 4, because we just want. But he ask you any open-ended question, do you feel like you just have to rush? I mean, what is your opinion? If somebody asks you, tell me, how did you feel about the, maybe I'll just give you the shopping, because everybody goes for shopping. So how was the collection at the store? If somebody comes and asks you, obviously those timing and those things are important. Then you would to give some elaborate answers to that. Okay. So that's why in the marketing and in all this business, now there is this qualitative they are not able to improve exactly what the customer wants. Qualitative, even the corporate sector, hospital and the hospital administration, they are quite into all these qualitative research, because this qualitative research will only be helpful in improving their services. Maybe in the government sector, we are not bothered about the kind of services which we are giving, and we have not reached up till that level where we are bothered about the client satisfaction, or every client is important for us. That concept is still not there in the government sector. But if you go to the private sector, every client is important for them. So qualitative research is very important, because then these open-ended questions, this thing. So say that the doctor was excellent, but the reception, it was very worse. So you may ignore, you may argue, or you may talk like what was the he's not taking the separate response. You can ask that one should have a separate response at every counter. So then that quantitative researcher maybe scale it like so is my voice am I audible to all of you, or is there any voice break in with an answer? You can write in the chat box. Am I audible to all of you clearly? Voice break. Okay, so yes, we are also feeling this voice break at our end. No, I think voice is breaking. Okay, thank you. So from where should I start? video. So I'm switching off my video because maybe because of that, just let me check my internet connectivity. Okay, from here only. So now can you hear me now in continuity without a break?
Yes.
Okay, and if anything happens of this sort, you please type in the chat box, because then I'll be talking to myself. So I don't want that to happen because I cannot see all of you. So okay, thank you. Thank you. So please do write in the chat box if, and don't think that it is at your end. But keep on thinking the problem is at their end, then we will not improve. So please, yes, now it is okay. So okay, so that's why I was talking that if somebody asks you an open-ended question, you feel like talking, you feel like you are being given importance. And by close-ended questions, you tend to rush. You tend to just fill your response. That too, it will be somehow in the middle, and then you tend to just finish your task. So that's the problem with the qualitative and with the quantitative. Similarly, even if you break it, all the questions, like you see, we break each and individual part into Likert scale, like satisfaction at the reception counter, satisfaction at maybe the doctors, then maybe the satisfaction if I ask at the other levels, like maybe in the blood collection center. But again, the patient may land up in dilemma in answering these things, because he will think that, okay, doctor was knowledgeable, he was excellent in his knowledge, but he was not good in communication. And such dilemmas, it remain in the various domain, because he will be somewhere in the middle, satisfied with something and not satisfied. You will not be able to exactly know where the problem lies. So in that case, the importance of the open-ended questions come, because we have not given the enough opportunity to the patients to express his or her satisfaction in detail. So that's why yes, sorry. So this dilemma is there because we are not giving them enough opportunity to express their satisfaction in detail. So that's why that's the limitation of a close-ended question, and that's the advantage of an open-ended question. So just to reiterate, in quantitative research, the participants or all of us, we respond through options. Whereas in qualitative research, we respond through emotions, we respond through words, we respond through a lot of things. So that's why that's the advantage of a open-ended question. So now just we will discuss, this was regarding the open-ended, close-ended questions. So now we will discuss how to develop an interview guide. And in developing an interview guide, we have discussed that we should be open. So of time, we will not be asking any question which is a close-ended question. And a close-ended question, the answers of a close-ended questions comes as a response, like maybe yes, no, or you may give some options like which color do you like, and then you will give 4 options: red, blue, white, and black, and the person has to answer out of those 4. So if you are restricting your response, or whatever you ask, if the answer is in yes and no, that will be a close-ended question. And you should refrain yourself from asking any close-ended question, because if the response, imagine that transcript where you are speaking and the participant is only saying yes or no. So that answer is futile for us, because you will not code that yes or no. You have to code that expression, you have to code that sentence. That's why you should always have this open-ended question in your interview guide. Now, there are few things to remember in the interview guide. So we will come in the actual how to draft an interview guide, what questions you should have in the interview guide. But while you are taking the interview, it is your responsibility to help them to remember. And that's come the role of the prompts for the person to make him remember something. If you ask a question, if the person doesn't answer in the first instance, then you give some prompt. And there is a difference between prompt and probe, that we will see what is the difference between the prompt and probe. So you will help the person, especially this is very helpful in case of a narrative analysis, narrative called type of research design, or maybe the phenomenology, this remembering thing, because you are asking from the person's his story or her story, and he may forget in between. So you have to help him to remember by actively involving in that conversation. So that should be there. So you should consider two main things while you develop an interview guide. So what are the type of questions which you will ask while you are developing the interview guide, and what type of questions you should avoid? So these both things are important, what to do and what to avoid. So generally we design the interview guide under 3 headings. So we have a opening section where we have few questions as opening questions. Then we have got a middle section, and then we have got a closing section. So basically your interview guide is divided in parts. So this interview guide, we are restricting ourselves to the IDIs and focused group discussion. And this IDI, it is known as the in-depth interview or individual depth interview. And then this focus group discussion, it is also known as the group discussion or focus discussion or focus group. So that those things, we will just start with discussing the interview guide, and the interview guide are same for both the interview, this in-depth interview and the focus group discussion. So the technique of developing an interview guide is same. So you have got an opening question, like you will introduce the topic and you will describe what is the context of the topic and what is the ethics. Obviously ethics, you will take the consent. And in this, once you start doing the formation or constructing the interview guide, you should be doing the enough literature review. So once you are done into that, because while you are developing the protocol, definitely you will undergo through that literature review. So you should have got extensive literature review of that topic where you are planning to do a quality, and then you develop the interview guide, because by that background knowledge, you are very clear what is already existing. Because in qualitative research also the same thing, we try to fill some gap. So that's why extensive literature review is very necessary. And then you form a interview guide, because then, and before forming the interview guide, keep talking to the people who are into it. So by talking to the people like your colleague, like your friends, like you are planning to do some research, they will also give you some insight regarding that. And then their knowledge can also be used to form an interview guide. And whatever interview guide we form in case of a qualitative, that is a very rough one, because many questions which you have not anticipated, that you will ask then and there, you make questions out of the response of the clients. So that's an active thing which you are doing. That's why we call it as an active listening. Whenever we do the interview of the qualitative research, we call it active listening, because you are doing the processing inside your brain simultaneously, and you are formulating questions also. Like we have given the example of this HIV knowledge in the first session. Like we asked from one girl, like how it spreads, and that girl said it spreads through touch. So if I'm not an active listener, I will understand this touch as same as touch. So I'll not go beyond that. But no, because I am an active listener, so I'm thinking that is this touch, is she, whatever she's saying, is that her touch and my touch, is both are same. So that you have to understand. So that's how those concepts of, meaning of the words, or, some colloquial or some local thing which they are not able to say, that you should understand. So that's why in interview guide, while forming the interview guide, we say that you be a very ordinary person. Don't be a doctor, don't be a researcher. You be like a common person, where you will behave a little bit of like a laywoman or layman, where you don't understand anything. Means you don't have to understand the meaning meaning definitely, but those words, the specific meaning, you have to ask from the client what they are understanding by it. So that's why you have to dissect each and every word which they are saying. So with the introduction, you have to take definitely you have to take both the written consent as well as you have to take the verbal consent also. And then in the middle, you have got the main interview questions. What are the topics? What are the prompts? And I've said you there's a difference between prompts and probe. Prompts are given to make that person remember where if he's forgetting anything or if something is not getting into the, and probe is to have a further follow-up question. When he has answered something and you want a further clarification, then you probe further, you go in depth into it. That is the probe. So there is a difference between prompts and probe. And then in the closing part, because we have said that there are 3 parts of an interview guide: an opening part, a middle part, and a closing part. In the closing part, you may ask further any other thing which the participant want to convey. And then again, you have to say thanks to the person, and there also you will summarize. So we'll see what are the important things which should be keep in mind while drafting the interview guide. So is there any fixed guideline to make an interview question? So I think you have to answer here only. Type in the chat box. Is there any fixed guideline to make an interview question? We are not running Zoom poll. You can answer here only. So yes, SSV, Anuja, Saraswati, Anuradha, they are writing that unable to choose. Okay. So yes, there's no fixed guideline for making an interview question. So now there are some important tips in developing an interview guide, and these tips will help you to have an open-ended, good interview guide, and where you will get a good response from the participant. So like tip 1, first is that I said that you have to do extensive literature review. So for that, literature review helps you to find the gap, because if you are bringing the same issues, then it is not adding to the existing literature. So while we draft our research question, we always try to find the research gap. So that literature search will identify that research gap, and which you will address in your qualitative research. So, and that helps you regarding the existing knowledge also, which the participants had said, their perception, their deliberation. So all those things you will come to know by the existing literature review. So before you start forming any interview guide, first read the extensive literature which is there on your particular research question, the topic, whatever comes to your mind. So that is the first tip. The second tip, you have to start with some initial light questions. Like we always say in the opening, this thing like describe something about yourself, your occupation, maybe your family, or etc. So that is some initial light questions where the participants, they get used to talking, because once they are used to, because they are very new to you, so all these initial questions acts like a icebreaker. And then if the person has started talking, then obviously he will be responsive to all your important questions. So don't ask anything important in the beginning for a few 3 to 4 minutes, because you are not going to code that also, those things initially, whatever he's saying. Like if the person has come to the OPD, or maybe then you may ask like how he has come, maybe some problems while he has come to the hospital. So all those things will make him respond to your questions. So initial 2 to 3 minutes should be on some few light questions. And then you start with the broader questions, and then you come to the narrow ones. We'll see the example of one interview guide, but theoretically you start with some broad topic, like topic which you will be developing the interview guide, like workplace, maybe dissatisfaction. So you may start with something like, what is you understand by this workplace dissatisfaction, or what do you think about this workplace dissatisfaction is? So you may start with some broad questions, and once the participants start answering, then you may come to the specific questions. Again, by probing, by follow-up questions, again probing, then follow-up questions. So you should always start with some broad general questions, because if you start specific questions initially, even the participant is not aware. Ideally in the West, what they do, they send the interview guide beforehand. Because the literacy level, the understanding of the participants who participate in even the patients or the clients, they are very literate and they are very understandable. So they send the interview guide beforehand. So they may think before coming to your FGD or to have a meeting with you. So they have some preparation. But in India, even if you send them, it's very few people who will prepare. Maybe if you're doing, like we did one interview with maybe higher level officials, like you are doing going interview with the state immunization officer, maybe district immunization officer. So they may ask for your interview questions, which you are going to ask. But generally, if you are doing it with the patient or even with the medical students, because in medical curriculum and in medical education also a lot of qualitative research we do. So then advance, but in Western this thing culture, it is a common protocol which they do, that they send the interview guide beforehand to the people whom they are going to interview. So you should always, especially this is important for us, like you should always start with some broad questions. If you have started with the broad questions, then the participant doesn't have to think or stress much, because he is also nervous interacting with you, like what you are going to ask or whether he will be able to answer those things or not. So you should start with some very general questions and then you can narrow down to the specific one. The third tip is like you may ask some hypothetical questions. Like hypothetical questions could be like, you put that person into the situation. Like if you want to have some insight on the administrative issues from you at the level of medical superintendent, what you would have expect or what you would have done. So that hypothetical situation, because if you ask him like, if what you expect. Okay, so I have stopped this video. Is it okay now? Or so anyone, Ashwathi or Shweta, can you confirm whether the voice is okay? Poonam, Priyanka?
Yes, ma'am, it's
Okay.
clear now. It's clear now.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. So so it started breaking with this hypothetical questions or before that?
Just on this session, ma'am, asking hypothetical questions.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. So yes, you should ask some hypothetical questions related to, like if you are taking an interview of maybe the medical students, you could have asked like, if you are at the level of dean, then what initiative would you like to do, or what initiative or what other activities you would like to start. So those hypothetical questions help you to get insight of the person, what he wants actually out of the dean or out of the administration. Or you can ask this from the patient also. Like if you are the medical officer in charge of this PHC, the program manager, then what you would do, what you will do. So such hypothetical questions will help you in getting the real insight of the person, what he actually wants. Because if he answers to that hypothetical questions, that means that's the exactly desire, or that's the exactly perception or such of that person from that particular administration or particular health program. Like one of you were telling that day that you are planning to do something on DOTS or RNTCP. Then you may ask from the patient, like if you're in charge of the area, then how would you do a particular thing? So those hypothetical questions help you to know the real desire of the person, which he or she expects out of the health system or out of the medical college or any health facility. So those hypothetical situations are important. So like in this case, you have to respond in the chat box. The question is, after amputation, how your life get changed? So you have to reframe this question as a hypothetical question. Or you can unmute yourself and answer also if you don't want to type, or if you want to respond. That I'm very much okay with that, because I like to have a conversation with all of you instead of this chat, because then I will not be able to hear you. So it's better if you can unmute yourself and answer. I would really appreciate that. Whatever you are thinking, there is nothing right or wrong. First, understand this, that in qualitative, there is nothing right or wrong. Everyone is right in his or her own perspective. Okay. So, yes.
Ma'am, it's Anuja.
Yes, Anuja.
Ma'am, the question can be like, have you seen a patient or consider yourself as one who is sitting, or a person who is physically handicapped and sitting by the side of the road? How would you feel like?
Yes, that can be done. Yes, very good. Anyone?
Ma'am, I will be asking like, how do you think the life of an amputee be like?
Okay. Yes. Aditi is asking what all provisions should be given from government to an amputated person. Yes, that can also be one question. And especially in this regard, I just want to say that if you don't want to touch, because if somebody has got his leg amputated, then he might feel very sad narrating all those things. So in that case, the hypothetical questions would be reversed. Like, had this amputation not been done on you, how would have your life be? So if he answers that question, that will be the change what he is feeling now. Did you get it? Like on the day one, you have seen that question, that video of sarcoma patient. Could you recall that? There were few sarcoma patients. Yes. So Priyadarshini is right that how your life would be, or how could you imagine your life if this amputation has not been done? Then he could have answered it in a happy manner, maybe a little less sad than what is. So in this case, a hypothetical question could be like, what do you think would have been different in your life if you have been your leg, if you haven't been your leg amputated? Okay. So similarly, remember that blind person video which we saw. So one lady came and she wrote that it's a beautiful, but I cannot see it. So then you must have seen that how the people started responding. Initially, that beggar was sitting and nobody was paying attention towards him. Everybody was busy in their own world. But that change of one sentence has made everything entirely different. So that's how you ask questions. That is also very important. So if you ask something, and that comes with practice, that comes with a lot of experience. Even we don't consider ourselves to be a very good interviewer, because at time being in health for so long, there is a tendency to ask straightforward questions. And initially, when you will take interview, you will realize that it is you who is speaking most of the time, and you are giving, because we are in habit of giving suggestions all the time, speaking, and the person is the listener most of the time. So just to hold yourself, not to say anything, not to ask a close-ended question, it takes a little time, maybe 4, 5 months or 6 months. With repeated practice, now then you will develop the skill of being patient and not behave as a doctor, because we always behave like a doctor. So if you go and take qualitative interview, that mode comes there also. Why you should always try to behave that you are a very normal person. You are not a doctor, and you are not a very scholar person. You are someone who is from their group only. and you have to come down to their level. Then only you will be able to understand, and you will remove your all those coverings where we are in a habit of speaking too much in front of anyone and giving advices. So this we have to learn. If you want to be in the qualitative research, you have to learn these tricks and you have to learn these art. So this is the one way of thinking, that what do you think would have been different in your life if you have not been your leg amputated? This is one hypothetical question. Again, then you are studying a student belief about group activity, and one of your question from the student was as below, that what do you suggest to improve this group activity? So can you reframe this question as a hypothetical question? Yes, you can unmute yourself and answer. So you are asking this from a group of students.
Ma'am, I will be asking like, if you are leader of the group, what would you do to improve the group activity?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Anyone?
Yeah, ma'am, I will ask, what is the importance of group activity, and what is the importance of group activity?
Okay, yes, that can be done. If they are telling you about the importance, they may suggest how they will improve the group activity. Anybody else would like to add something to it?
Ma'am, I would like to ask them how do they like a group activity to be done?
Okay, yes. So how do they like that can be done? Yes,
Yes,
Pridarshini,
ma'am.
yes. Anybody else? Anuja is writing how we can ensure. Let me go to the chat again, chat box. How can we ensure full participation? Then Kirthana is writing, how do you gain from this activity and how to change if you organize it? Yes, again a hypothetical question. So these are one of few of the important questions. And again, I said that whatever is framed here, that is not the only way to ask. That is one way. So all of you who has written this, obviously, you will have something out of it. So nobody is right and all the questions are right. So there are many ways of asking the same questions. And that's how we do while yes, Poonam is writing, if this was not a group activity, is learning different? Yes, that can also be asked. And that's why we say that nothing, if a person is not answering your particular question, then try reframing your questions then and there only. Because again, an interview guide is not a hard and fast guide. It is just, it leads to something, but you have to be very innovative while you take the interview. And again, that comes from repeated practice. If you take interview of like 100, 200 clients repeatedly, then you learn how to extract things, how to reframe your questions then and there. So in this case, one of the way could be like, you are a teacher and how will you plan a group activity? So because you will say that most of the students, they always say that that this teacher was good or this teacher was bad. So they have got a real perception of who is a good teacher and how a teacher should be. So if you give them this hypothetical situation that they are imagining themselves as a teacher, then how would they have planned that? So yes, all these things are important, which you have written or which you have said. And in addition, this could be one of the way, like I said, like you are giving him the role of a teacher, and then ask like how he would have planned that group activity. So this was one way. So those hypothetical situations are important to consider. Now, tip 4 is think about the data analysis while framing the questions. Again, I said if you frame any question as a close-ended, you will got a no response in that answer. And few of you who have done a little bit of qualitative, you know that we do the coding on participants' answers or participants' verbatim. So if you have got nothing in that, or if you have got a very poor response, then you will have nothing to code. You cannot code your own questions. So just imagine your transcript. Imagine your transcript to be like few lines from the participants and more lines from your side. then there will be nothing left to code. So those situations, if you imagine, then try extracting things from the participants, because then you will have nothing to code. Going to code those words, you are going to code those responses which the participants has set. So imagine yourself the way we imagine our quantitative data, like in Excel, it will fall like this, or there's sort of some imagination goes into your mind while you ask those response or while you form your interview guide, like how that data will fall, how that response of 1, 2, 3, or maybe quantitative, qualitative questions will come. Similarly, you have to think about the data analysis while you frame your questions. And before that, always, before you form that question, always talk to your people, with your friends. Always administer these to your friends first. Take their response, your colleague. They will also give a too much of insight into that particular thing which you have not thought of. So keep on talking while you are doing a qualitative research. Keep on talking to the different people who are there with you, and while talking also they will give you a insight about your idea, about the questions what you missed. And it is also recommended that you talk to few of the colleague who has already worked in that area. So while talking to your colleague also, you will have something like what to include and what not to include, because everybody asks the question interview guide, but the interview guide is a very rough one. The actual interview guide nobody shares, because it's a very much nuanced form and it is not required also. So you should talk to your friends. So now let's develop an interview guide. So in the interview guide, there are steps for developing. So first you have to open a new Word document. We'll do it. Then you have to write your research questions. So in the qualitative research also, you have your research question. So you have to write your research questions, and then you have to focus on one research question and try to write as many questions as possible which seems to be relevant on that topic. So I'll show you, we did one study on this HIV patient, their discrimination against HIV patients, the refusal and referral, and how we developed that qualitative guide. I'll show you. And then you have to, once you are done with that, you have to revisit that guide, you have to refine that, and you may need to rearrange the question order. And the question order is always, it gets changed while you are doing the actual interview, because many a times what happens, the question number 3 or 4 is there at the last, but the participant discussing about that particular in the first instance. So you are not going to interrupt that participant, and you will now start your interview with the question number 3. So that arrangement or reordering or refining, it happens while you are doing the interview. And that's why you do this pilot testing of your questionnaire with few of your respondents whom you may or may not include in your data analysis. So this was the research aim. So I had to assess the perception of care and treatment among HIV positive patients at antiretroviral treatment center. So I planned this study at 2 ART center, one in Patna and the other in Chhapra. So we took 2 ART center, and we had to assess the perception of care and treatment among HIV positive patients. And we identified our stakeholders. Those were the counselor, ART doctors, the private practitioners, and patients, and as well as the non-HIV patients also. So we interviewed all of them. So our 3 objectives were, or these are the research questions, were to, first was to, what are the perception of care and treatment among HIV positive patients at ART center across, it was across 2 districts. It's initially we planned for 6 districts, but then we did in 2 districts. Then the second research questions was what are the barrier to accessing the care as perceived by the HIV positive patients. And the third research question was, what are the perception among healthcare personnel at ART center and community members. So these were the 3 research questions, and how we developed interview guide that I'll show you. So now this, I'm just clicking on this, so it will open. So I'll open a doc. So I have opened a doc, a Microsoft Word, and then I have written all 3 of my research questions. The first research question was, what are the perception of care and treatment among HIV positive patients? So these are the specific questions. So before I start with the specific questions, I said that few opening questions should be of a general statement so that it acts as an icebreaker. The person will start responding to your questions. So you should not come directly to the specific questions. You should have some general questions. So for that, what I'll do, I may write like, tell me about yourself. You can ask this question. I mean, this you will ask definitely after taking the consent, giving your introduction, explaining the overview that we'll discuss in while you are taking the interview. But if you start with the question, you may ask by, tell me about yourself, and then you in the prompt you can type, like if that person is not answering, what that prompt could be, you can ask about the occupation, you can ask about the living, you can ask about the family. So these are the prompts. You may ask like them are from their family, or how many children they have, or what the person does. So you may ask these questions. So these are the initial thing which will encourage the participants to respond. And then you may ask like how this past year had been for you. So this would be the few initial questions. Then you can ask something about the HIV. So you can ask like how that person how he came to know, because HIV person always wants to talk about her status, his status. So how he came to know about her or his status, that you have discussed. So these are some initial questions. Then you may come to the specific questions. So in the specific questions, the specific question will be regarding the perception and care and treatment. So as a person, you may ask some hypothetical question. In this case, rather than asking him the actual thing, you may ask like, what kind of services that expects out of ART. So you can ask this hypothetical question. Then while he is responding, you may ask her his experience also. So then you may ask regarding what kind of services or the how he came to know about that services. So you can ask this question also. And then you can ask like how he feels about the staff. So you will not ask like what is the behavior of staff. That question will be a very direct one. Although it is about the perception of care and treatment. So you may ask like, how do you feel, or how do you feel about the staff at the ART center? So this will be regarding their behavior. You are not going to ask like how they behave with you. No, this will be a too direct question. You may ask like how do they feel about the staff who are there, and then you may ask like regarding how is the follow-up care, maybe how is the follow-up care done. So in this case, you should ask, you should have this, all those principles. Like we talked about drafting an interview guide, and we talked about the hypothetical questions. We talked about the open-ended questions. We talked about what, why, and how these three things should be there, and not to have any close-ended questions. So you should take care of these things. Then again, you can, I'm just leaving this, you can again go in the second part. So in the second research question was regarding the barriers in accessing care as perceived by the HIV positive patients. So then you can ask, in this case also, like how. Now, in this case, I'm not going to ask like, do they have some barrier? No. What are the barrier? I may ask, what are the difficulties? What are the difficulties they feel? I may ask one questions. If you are the in charge of this ART center, what would you have done to the situation? So that would be one of the hypothetical question. So this way you may keep on asking questions. Then you come to the third research question. So the third research question was what are the perception of HIV positive patients among health personnel at HIV and community members. So in this case also, you may start with, again, the simple, because here the clients will change. Here it will be the healthcare personnel, the doctors and community member. So again, you may start with the general questions like, tell me about yourself. That will be the general questions. And then you may start with questions something like, just a second. So why this diction option is not working? So instead of writing, I am using diction, because this, I find it very easy, because then you keep on dictating and this will keep on writing. Let me see if it works here or not. Yeah, so it is working. So how would you interact with patients in this facility? So other question could be like, what kind of services are available? So of services are available in the ART center. So this option of diction is useful, especially if you, when you will do the data analysis and coding, this diction option also you can use for your transcript making, for your memo writing, because while we will explain this later. So this option of diction in Word, it is very useful for me, because I don't, many times I don't feel like typing. So if you just, dictate, it will keep on writing. So this is the way you can have your interview guide, and you can have all silly questions in your interview guide initially, and then you may refine it. But your interview guide should not be very long. Maximum it should have some 6 to 7 questions, not more than that, because then it will be difficult for you to remember those questions also. And then, because you cannot open your interview guide in front of the participant and keep on seeing that interview guide. So that is there. So now next question is, so let me show you a full interview guide that I forgot. So I'll go to this. This was the interview guide. So this was the interview guide for HIV positive patients. So is my screen visible to all of you? So yes, this was the tell me about yourself, how the past year had been, or how you first heard about your HIV status, like how did you find out, how did you cope, how did you inform family members or community members. So this was a prompt. Many times you don't even need, it is not needed to ask these prompts, because the person who are very much outspoken, he will respond to all your questions. Then again, what kind of services do you seek? What did you hear about the services about at the ART center? Then how you feel about the staff at the ART center? So can you describe your interaction? See, the word which I have used here, can you describe your interaction with the staff? Obviously, do you feel supported? This I'm not going to ask, because this will be a close-ended question. If I ask this, do you feel supported? Then they may ask yes or no. So no, I will ask that how do they describe their interaction with the staff? And many a times, if you try, because we formulate this interview guide in English and then we translate it in the local language. So ideally, the person who is conducting, he should be very well versed with the local language. Otherwise, all those nuances and the local terminology, it will be difficult for you to understand. So if you are conducting, like maybe if you're doing a project where you are, you don't know the person and the language, not the person, but the language, then you may seek help of a local people who will do this work for you, and they will take the interview if you train them well. But if the researcher knows the language, then it is the best. Then because the researcher is known for all the topics, the researcher has done enough background work, so you can perform. If you are taking the interview, it is the best. So now what kind of follow-up care? This is the interview guide. We'll share this with you. This was the interview guide for the health personnel. And then you can see the selection of words. So like I have asked this, can you describe a typical patient encounter? So this should be some of the words. So it is very much said that a qualitative researcher should sit with the dictionary, or maybe you should be very much knowledgeable about the kinds of words or the language to use, because the language plays a key role in formulation of interview guide, in taking the responses. So with this, I think this was the interview guide of the community members. So you can see, I think interview guide, not more than 6 or 7 questions. And this should be there. So these were the 3 interview guides, because we were having 3 stakeholders. We were having the community members, the healthcare professionals, and the patients. So for all these 3 stakeholders, we have to have a 3 separate interview guide. So depending on the research question, you should start with your research question, forming some general questions, then broader type, and then specific questions, and then closing the interview. So this was the rough tips and guideline for making a interview guide. So now this is a question. Can you change the wordings of a question during the interview? Although it is a close-ended question, because I just want to have an opinion from all of you, that can you change the wording of a question during the interview? Yes, SSV is writing. No, few people have said no. I think, let me see. And but most of you are saying yes. So yes, you should of the question. That's why I'm saying that you should be knowing the language in which you are going to ask. Definitely you should change the wording. That's how I said about the active listening, and that's how you frame the questions in different ways. If the person is not getting through one way, you try to frame it through another way. So that's the way you have to many times, most of the time, you reframe your question. Most of the time, you change the wording of those questions, because if the person is not getting, even after pilot testing, you have designed your final questionnaire in the local language, maybe in Tamil, in Kannada, or in Malayalam, or in Bhojpuri, or in maybe in for Bihar and UP it is Hindi. Then also you need to change the wordings. Many times it is required, because you are reframing questions. If you are not getting the response, if the participant, because you will meet the participants having the different background. There may be one person who is a graduate, who is very understandable, he will answer in everything. But simultaneously, since you should have a diverse background, meeting someone who is illiterate, that lady, you need to reframe the question. So definitely you have to, it is always needed that many times you have to change the wordings during the interview. So the order of questions, what is your opinion regarding this? Order of questions? Yes, very right. Initially, only I said that you don't have to go, because definitely we write the questions in an order. But if while answering first question, if the person has started responding simultaneously for the third question also, then you are not going to stop him and say that no, you have to answer this first. So let the person be in flow, and you can change your order accordingly, because it's nothing is in order. It's just you have to code the response, and those responses you can shift up and down. So general to specific, yes, Emmanuel is writing, sometimes they may answer for 2 questions. Yes, very true. Few questions. I interviewed one person for one person of HIV positive patients regarding the perception. I only asked 1 question or 2 questions, and he answered me all. He was so coherent, and he was so what we can sorted out, that he answered all questions without even asking me. So that's and one also I encountered one SIO, state immunization officer. We were conducting a study regarding the one immunization regarding the acceptability of the community and the administrative people. So the SIO also, that is state immunization officer, he was so vocal that I could not ask many questions. While answering 1 question, he answered, I think 3, 4, 5 questions. So because they are full with experience. So many a times you don't even need to answer all those, ask all those questions. And the participants, if they are vocal enough, if they are experienced enough, and if you have a good rapport, definitely that matters, that rapport building. Then definitely order, it is never in that order which you write. So this but you have to ensure at the end that all topics have been covered. Whatever you have drafted in your interview guide, roughly, if anything left at the end, you may ask. Otherwise, if it is already answered, you don't need to ask. Especially I am making this very clear for the PG students, because the PG student, the postgraduate student, you think initially that you have to ask the question in that order only, because we are in habit of doing so till now. But no, it is very innovative, and you don't have to go in any of the order. You may ask questions irrespective of any order. The only required thing is you should cover all the topics where you wanted the response from the participant. And that's why you should always remember those questions. Practice interview, a mock interview with 3, 4 people, with your colleague, before you actually go into the field, because you cannot see on the paper and then ask the question. The question should be in your mind, and if you ask it many times now, you will remember each and every question, because it is not very difficult. And I said it is only 6 to 7 questions which you have in your interview guide. Then can you ask extra questions during the interview? Whatever you have formulated in that interview guide, can you ask any extra question? Yes, definitely, very right. Because many questions you form then and there from the respondent's answer. You are asking, you are framing questions then and there. So definitely you ask extra questions during the interview. So that's why we call it as a semi-structured. It is not a structured interview. Yes, Pragya is right that it depends upon the response. So from that response also you draft many questions, you reframe the questions, you frame the questions, and then you ask. So in unstructured questionnaire, like many people, like in grounded theory, we say that we go a little bit unstructured, but there also we have got a few questions in our hand. We started with unstructured questionnaire, and there you start with only one research question, and then you keep on framing the questions in the real time according to the response. So that is unstructured. So there is something known as unstructured also, but that is seldom done in the qualitative research in health. In health, usually we have got few questions because already we choose a topic, there is some literature available, you will do the literature search, you have some idea, you will talk to people, and you have got few questions in your mind. We never go unstructured. So that's why we call it as a semi-structured. So if this question asked to you, do you think that AIIMS Delhi is a good hospital? Do you ask such question in an interview? Don't you think that AIIMS Delhi is a good hospital? Do you? No. Yes, you are right. And such questions are known as the double barrel questions. When you have got two questions in one question, you are asking, don't you think, although you are giving him the lead, don't you think of what that person will say? It is like you are leading him to say yes, that he has to say yes. And that too, it's a double barrel question. So you should avoid asking double barrel question. And because more than one question in one thing, that is not required. Ask one question at a time. So that comes with the practice. Even while doing the active listening, many times you ask two questions. So no, hold yourself, think before asking, and ask one question at one time. So the participants ask for the interview guide after giving consent. What will you do? Will you give the interview guide to the participant? Yes or no? All these are new close-ended questions, but I need your close-ended response now because Anuja, yes. So definitely you audible to all of you. Some internet connectivity issue was there. Okay, yes. So you may give some rough interview guide. Generally, we share the rough interview guide where 4 or 5 questions are there, because the final interview guide, I mean, it is not, we have that rough interview guide only. So you may share that rough interview guide. And you must have seen while going through the various article that many of the researcher, they write in the methodology about their interview questions also. Did you? I mean, could you feel this yesterday or while 2 days while you were going through the search? Yes, Emmanuel, you can give it to all also. Yes, you noticed it. Yes, we have also seen that they don't give it as an annexure. Rather, they give it as a. Okay, Madhav is writing interruption in audio. Yes. So am I audible to all other people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So I think Dr. Madhav, can you see connectivity at your end? Maybe because I'm audible to other participants, so maybe some issue will be there, or you will get the recording of this lecture also. So you may continue the part where I was not audible for you especially. So you should share this interview guide with all of you. With not all of you, with the participant. And in that case, yes, with the depend on your research question, we do give it to the people. But usually the kind of patients, they don't even keep the consent form in the written consent form. Because while we take the consent also, we give one part to the person and one part we keep it with ourselves. And that please do take written consent from all the participants, because these days a lot of ethical issues comes with the qualitative research, and many a times the good journals like BMC, and they ask for the consent, and they ask for the recorded this thing also, transcript also. They ask for the transcript also. So you should be ready with all those things, because they may ask it as a supplement, like the way they ask for the data set. If you publish your article, or if you send your article, and if they accept it, so they may ask for a transcript if you submit good qualitative research journal. Okay, so you have to, then you should give your interview guide. So now I think I would request Dr. Haripriya to create 4 breakout room.
Yeah, ma'am, it's created, ma'am, already.
Okay, so please, all of you to make that breakout room active, and then our resident will type the questions in the Word doc, and then copy and paste in the main group chat box. Okay, so you have, the topic is, you have to develop the interview guide for your research aim, and the research aim is to explore about the workplace related stress and coping mechanism amongst resident doctors. So there are 2 parts: workplace related stress, and the second part is the coping mechanism. And minimum 3 to 4 questions you have to frame, but maximum it's up to you. And
Quality question.
that's it. So I think the time is 10 minutes.
Frame any question. like assuming that this is a semi-structure, that's why I told that we can have this question as separate, sir. But if you want to club, we can.
Yeah, we can keep it as a separate part because you are asking opinion, right?
Yeah, yes,
So
sir.
it's
Yes.
like
So we are back to main room, and it is requested from all the moderators or the facilitators, please share the questions. So yes, Shweta is writing. That's okay. Yes, you may.
Ma'am, how do we have to share? Should we share our screen or?
Ma'am, I have written in the chat box.
Yes, Shweta, yeah, I can see it. That
Okay, thank
you have written first question. Please tell me about yourself. Yes, we will discuss all for 5 minutes. We will discuss the questions which you have drafted.
Thank
Because
you, ma'am.
on the basis of this, you will conduct the interview now. Okay. Because in the breakout room, you have to take one-to-one interview, which you will transcribe today, and you will learn coding on that tomorrow. After I show you the demo, you will learn the coding on your transcript. So this interview guide, let's see this interview guide. And if an interview guide is very long, you may skip few questions. And because I think you have to take the interview in the second breakout room for 10 minutes. So that 10 minutes, whatever you can ask, the most important questions, maybe that after that, initial questions, you may not record that. So Manisha is writing. So only Manisha has written, and I think I have few questions from Shweta. And then nobody has pasted it.
Ma'am, we are pasting it, ma'am.
Okay, because then we will combine breakout room 3. SSV is writing. So till the time we are all compiling all the questions, I will ask discussing one by one. So Shweta wrote that, please tell me about yourself. Yes, so that was a opening question. How you feel about your working environment? So in this case, you can have some some prompt regarding what? And then can you tell me your experience with your colleague? Okay. And then could you please explain some of the, she's in field.
Common group में मैसेज करने के लिए डायरेक्ट नहीं.
Okay, Shweta, you can post these questions again in the with the common group also, because they will also see the questions.
That's why you are only directly seeing. I am not able to copy.
Okay, and then you have written, could you please explain some of the problem faced by you at your workplace? Then Manisha is Manisha's group. Tell me about your something. What did you choose this specialty? Why did you? Please tell me about your working pattern. Yes, so these were some initial ice-breaking questions like working pattern or specialty. And then the specific questions like how is the cooperation from seniors and staff members? Yes, and in that question, remember we have used the term interaction. So you can also ask like how you interact or what is the interaction with you from your colleagues and maybe from your seniors. What are the difficulties you face in your workplace? How is the COVID has affected your regular work pattern? How the workplace stress affected your relationship? Yes, this is also important because you are extending this stress to the family and friends. So that question, yes, it is a good question. What type of stress do you face in the workplace? And if they are the head of the department, what changes they bring? So you have asked some hypothetical questions like if they are the head of the institute or head of the department, what strategy? Because the second is how to cope up with these workplace. So rather than asking coping up with this workplace, you can also ask questions like if they are the head of the department, how would they? What changes would they like to bring to have their employee so that they could change their stress or they could reduce their stress. SSV is also writing like what was the stress perceived or not. Okay, so in this case, this was a direct question. So was the stress, because stress, if again this close-ended question we should avoid. But can anyone explain from the breakout room 3 why they have put this question? Because they must have thought before putting it.
Ma'am, first they just wanted to know whether they have perceived it or not. Like if they have given an answer of yes, they were trying to explore it much better. That's what that was their idea, the participants.
Okay, so that is good. But in this case, interview, one thing I just want to say one thing, that even if they have not, they themselves have not felt that, but maybe their colleague. Because your research question, it depends on your research question. Many a times the respondent may not have felt that stress directly, but they must have felt it through one of their colleague, means their colleague sharing something, or their juniors sharing something, or maybe their staff sharing something. If you are the head of the department, you have not felt that, but since you are the head, everyone is coming and talking to you, because the head of the department will also be a stakeholder in this research question. So in that case, this always necessary, because you are asking the perception that may not be felt by the person himself, but he may be an indirect observer, or maybe observer, or maybe the listening of some other stories. Then he or she may share her experience. Okay, did you get it, Haripriya and the group?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
this is the typical response which we ask in the quantitative studies. Like if the response is yes, then ask this question. If the response is no, then skip that question. Can you recall? But in qualitative, it is because we are not doing a narrative analysis, right? We are doing a qualitative descriptive. Had it been a narrative type of qualitative research method, then deliberately you will choose all those respondents who have undergone this workplace stress. Can you differentiate between the two? Yes or not?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Am I making, no, I think I'm not making myself clear, because Sukalyan is saying no. Okay. There are two situations. If the same research question, that workplace stress. So workplace stress, if I have to do a narrative analysis, or if I have to do a phenomenology, then I must have defined it as a phenomena, or I will take 4 or 5 identified, maybe people. Maybe how will I identify that? Maybe people who have written about it to the director, or who have come up with this stress and said that, yes, I have suffered from this stress. So in that case, you will take the interview of those people who have undergone through this stress, who have suffered this stress. But in this case, it is not necessary that the interviewee from whom you are taking the interview, he or she has felt the stress. Maybe stress is something which all of us feel. That is different thing. But workplace stress as a part of narrative or phenomenology, or as a part of qualitative descriptive, the interviewee will be different. If you are doing a narrative, you will choose only those people who have felt that stress. If you are doing a qualitative descriptive, you will also take people who themselves have not felt it, but they know many people. They have interacted with people who. So now they can also give their perception, although they have not felt it, but how they perceive it. Am I making myself clear or not, Sukalyan?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Means like if you can take the interview from me, maybe I'm the head of the department. Okay, so all the juniors and residents, they come to me and then they share their story, like what is the harassment or what is the stress they are undergoing. I have not felt it, but being in my position, I know that there are many people and what type of stress they are undergoing through. So I can be one of the interviewee, but it will not be a narrative. Why? Because it has not happened with me. So that's the difference between, in this case, the same thing can be done as a narrative or as a phenomenology, but we are doing it as a qualitative descriptive, where I may not have suffered, but I'll answer. That's why this first question, have you perceived this stress? Or maybe now again, this perceive this stress question, if you ask, that perception may be in the form of indirect also. So it is not necessary that if I have felt that, then only I can respond. Is it clear to all of you or not?
Yes.
Because like if you want to know something about alcohol, it's not necessary that I am taking the alcohol, then only I can answer. Even if I'm not taking it, I may answer you a lot of things. So that's the difference between the narrative. So a narrative, that person has to undergo that trauma or that problem or that stress. But in this case, this question is not necessary that have you ever undergone or perceived stress? Because even if he has not perceived it directly, he must have perceived it indirectly through one of his colleagues, subordinates, juniors, seniors, etc. Okay. So now, if it is clear, I'll open the combined interview guide. So this was the combined. Okay, let me share the screen. So can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So you can see here that it was the breakout room 1 questions. Tell me about you choose this specialty. Please tell me about your working pattern, cooperation from seniors and staff members. What are the difficulties you face in your workplace? Has COVID affected? This I have read. I'll come to the breakout room 3. So if you see the breakout room 3 response, then how was the stress that I started with that. So this question you may delete. Then how much stress are you experiencing? How much stress? So how will they answer this? Yes, group. Because how much, how will they quantify? Breakout room 3, anyone?
Ma'am, we thought to actually categorize these like unbearable or okay or too much like that, or it
Okay.
is just like
Okay, so you are
just like
again,
usual.
being in quantitative researcher, we always tend to do some quantification, and that we do also many a times in the coding type. This type of coding is known as the magnitude coding, when you are trying to quantify the experience. So in that case, yes, you can have this question, but again, maybe a little bit later on, because this you may get this response while you ask his perception, like how he perceive or what is the interaction between the people in the department or between him and the other people. Then again, what are the specific factors which attribute to stress? Yes, this is again, it is a good question. Maybe you are trying to some specific thing. So you started with general and then you are trying to specific. Then again, tell me about yourself and your residency. So this question, maybe you can have some in the beginning, because this is a general question. Then what was your experience? How much is the stress affecting your life? Yes, this is important because you want to have the affecting it the other domains of life. What stresses you out of life? Again, this question, this I'm not very clear. What do you mean by this question? What stresses you out of life? This seems to me a little bit very broad questions. Then how do you cope with stress you get in residency life? Okay, this is the coping mechanism. What are the activities you do it? Yes, this is also what activities you are coming to a specific question. What are the some ways in which the stress affects your relationship with your family? This is again a specific question. So any recent change of activities which help you right now to maintain work-life balance? This you are asking again as a coping mechanism. Breakout room 4, obviously brief introduction, workplace related stress. How do you feel about current workplace problems? So yes, it was somehow what are the problems you are facing, or how the mentioned problems contributing to stress? Yes, this is a good question because it is again a follow-up question. From that problems, you are again linking those problems in the contribution of stress, and how do you cope up with the workplace stress? And if you are the head of the institute, how will you ensure a stress-free? Yes, so what are the barriers to cope up with stress, if any? So I think these questions, these are this breakout room 3. I think they have done a good job because they have divided it into the 2 parts, the workplace stress related stress and coping mechanism. And then again, they have few questions under the 2 heading. So this is, I think this is pretty okay, which you can go ahead with this. And then because this seems to be a, if you have to remember also, this will be easy for you. If you have like categorized it under 2, and then again you have like, so if you form questions like this, again you are helping yourself in one way that it's guided code. So we talked about, remember, inductive and deductive way of doing a qualitative research. So if you, since beginning only, if you are very clear about your thing, your research question, then you may have this deductive, that you may have one category of this workplace related stress and the second category as coping mechanism. But again, we'll discuss more while we do the coding. But if you have structured your questionnaire, then many researchers, they recommend that you may have a pre-formed code also, and pre-formed category, and you may keep all those codes in that pre-formed category. But we'll discuss what are the disadvantages of such approach, the deductive one. So this was the fourth, and then again, the breakout room 2 questions, if I can see. Which department are you working? Yes, these are some general questions, working hours. So these questions will break the ice, and then how other colleagues cooperate with you to manage workload. How do you find working in department? Okay, so before this colleague, you can ask first this question: how do you find working in the department? So question number 5 should come first, and then you may ask about the other colleague. Which part you like the most during your residency or work? This is also a good question because you are starting with something positive also. So this is also a good question. The department, what are the type of work you avoid in the hospital? This is also an indirect question. Because if this question, this is a hypothetical question that the person is asking, that what type of work that person will not like to do, because he may have stress in that, so he will not like to do. And then what are the stress situations you face during working? Any refreshment activity other than the academics? How do you handle unwanted situation during your work? What are the supports you get from the friends when you are under the stressful? And what is the effect of life on your personal life? So these are all good questions. I think if we combine all of them and take few questions from each of these, then we may have a complete interview guide. But again, I said that these are some rough guidelines. It is not necessary that your interview will go accordingly the way you have drafted your interview guide. It may deviate, and then again, you bring that interview back to your main line. So we will draft a rough interview guide out, taking few questions from this, and then we will share that with you in the second breakout room, and then your interview with that interview guide, right? So so did you understand about the this, how we are going to do it?